For a little background, I'm from a small island called Jamaica. Um, my mom had her face burnt off with acid, and then she had a medical visa to America. My dad came to America, and he brought us up. And my mom is probably the strongest person I know, and she has a book called Face of Hope. So
Mm.
anytime I hear the word hope, I always think about it. And the thing that makes my mom great is her face is burnt off with acid. No one says you're pretty. No one says you're beautiful. She hasn't had a relationship in 20 plus years. And, I'm an only child. And I remember when we were going out, I never wanted to go anywhere with my mom because, people want to point and look at her,
Wow.
and say things. And I was always this angry kid. And, um, but that's where a lot of hope and strength came from for me. Uh, but this morning, someone was saying, like, I do not know you for not getting up when you fall. And
Hmm.
the big problem with me right now is that I screwed up, and I'm probably about to do 14 years for it.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think and I think that starts in about 7 days. So in 7 days, I have to go to Ohio where I've never been and turn myself in, and it's a lot of time. And what have I learned from that and through that? Let's see. I remember when my dad used to tell me about the people that I hang around with. And I never listened about the people that I hung around with, but a lot of my life to me now seems like an episode of Keeping It Real goes wrong.
Shit.
And in this specific situation, I used to be a promoter. I used to rap
Okay.
and I used to sell tickets to perform. Then I was like, you ain't doing nothing I can't do. Then I became a promoter. And I went to Cal State Fullerton. I lived in Orange County. I went to Fullerton High School. I had a speech and debate scholarship. I know how to talk. I was the right kind of black. I could
Hmm.
go in certain rooms that certain black people couldn't get into. I could get into them. And it could be because I went to school with someone or persistence, most likely. Uh, I'm persistent and I'm innovative with how I try to get things done. Now with the internet, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, it's much harder. It's much easier to reach people. But
Mm-hmm.
back then, it wasn't. But I was persistent on getting things done. Oh, that's okay. So anyway, um, what's it called? Uh, uh, so from being a promoter, uh, I started doing events and I started doing hip hop artists like E40, Too Short. I got Drake when Drake was only $5 grand. I booked Drake in the
Back in the
ASU
day
Fox
then.
Theater in
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day, ASU Fox Theater, San Bernardino. Booked him for some guys $5 grand. Um, and I kind of always been good at catching people on the rise. I got what's her name? I got Cardi B when she was pretty affordable. Um, Man, talk about hope. I'm driving past Marathon Burger right now.
It's
Guys from
dope.
the neighborhood made it.
That's
Um,
yeah.
I just got out
God
this
bless
thing,
him
so
up.
I'm gonna get blown up with these calls. 1 second, let me send a text. Okay. Okay. Dang.
Everything all right?
Yeah, it's my girlfriend's trying to get me to give give the okay to for Medi-Cal or Medicare to give her information, I think.
Oh, okay.
So probably need to. So basically, with Trump in office, one of the things about Trump is if you're locked up and you have severe medical issues, he don't really want you in there because he don't want to pay the bill. So
Mhm.
it's like one thing. Hello? Yeah. Um. So so I was a promoter, got really good at that. Um. I think Fox News. I made it. Fox News did a documentary on me. I was one of the top promoters in LA at the time, and then as I was doing that, I became a booking agent because the natural thing once you start doing stuff is like, yo, let me get E40. Yo, how can I get this? Yo, can I get that? Can I get whatever? So I
Since you
became
had
a
the
booking agent.
connections.
And
Hmm.
right. And I was probably the top booking agent in California at the time. And that's just a matter of being innovative and, investing time, money, and effort into it, finding and then converting people. Like,
Mm.
I would go on a map and I would find out clubs in certain cities and I would just message them and even just try to plan or route my own tours. Because if I got an artist and they wanted $20,000, I would say, yeah, I ain't got 20, but I got 35 if you can do Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You know what I mean? I would try to do
Right.
these packages and then try to find people to add on to them. And then I started something that was even, people still do it to this day, to where I will get an artist and I'll do them in a city. We call it a C or D market, like Victorville. I'll
Okay.
do them
So
at
where
like
that's on the
7
outskirts.
on the outskirts, and I'll do them at 7 or 8 o'clock. Victorville don't care. LA
Hmm.
care. I ain't going nowhere at 7 to 8 o'clock. You know, then I can get them to Riverside at 10 or 11, and I can get
Hmm.
them in LA by 1 a.m. So I was doing these triple bookings, but all in the same day. So this guy wanted 20 grand. I got 20 for you. Got 30, but hitting different spots with it, kind of thing. And
Right.
so, uh, working after parties, etc. Then from there, uh, there were these events, these weed events, and they need to book like Kush Stock or whatever. And there was a new one, I think it was Dabathon Cup or something like that, and they wanted Ty Dolla Sign. And he called me maybe 4 or 5 months before this event, but he actually ended up booking Ty Dolla Sign the week before the event. And so I went to this event, and man, it was about, I want to say 500 vendors. Now, these vendors are paying between $700 and $2,000 for space, right?
Wow.
And there was probably less than 1,000 people that came to the event, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind that this guy had people spending 500, 2,000, and some spent 5,000 to be title sponsors or whatever else, right? So he has about 300, 400,000 in revenue just from the vendors. Wait, let me do this math. It was 500 people get about 200,000 in revenue from the vendors, right? If I
That's just
remember
from the
correctly,
vendors.
just from the vendors, right? But spent almost nothing on marketing, and he didn't get Ty Dolla Sign until it was like too late to do anything at all. And when I'm talking to him, I realized that, oh, I just get the building and they got to pay, and the vendors should bring their own people, and the vendors this and the vendors, it was just more like, I just need these four walls, right?
Hmm.
And coming from a promoting background, it's like you're fighting for business, you know, 2 bottles for this. If it's your birthday, you get this. Everybody free before 11. Then like you got to work for people's business. You got to work to put smiles on people's faces. Like, and when I saw this cannabis stuff, it was not that.
It was
It
people
was
want
it
to be a
was
part of the club. You just got to provide the right atmosphere for it, kind of, huh?
no, not really. It's new frontier.
Oh,
These
okay.
people are these people are spending this money expecting that they're going to make some of it back, expecting that they're going to, there's going to be people there that's going to hear about their brand, that's going to do this, that's going to do that, that's going to do that. And it was nothing like that. So you're talking about hundreds of pissed off people. So
Got
I
you.
saw that, and that's when I got into cannabis space because you do business with me, they're going to get a smile. I'm going to put that work in, I'm going to do whatever. In that business, it was like, yeah, we ain't doing none of that. Like, and that's when you find some business people or some people are good at a craft. They're good at probably growing cannabis, but they're not good at marketing or advertising or whatever
Right.
else.
There's a difference
And
between
so
growing and actually being able to move it. Right.
the market and all of that stuff. And
Hmm.
so that's when I got into the cannabis industry, and and that's how I eventually ended up with all this time. Someone from Ohio came, and they wanted to do some cannabis stuff, and it's crazy, man. Her dad was a coach in the NFL, and I'm a football person, so we kind of, it was kind of intriguing to me, and I helped her out. And they went back to Ohio. They got caught, and the cookies crumbled. But that was my first time doing something outside of green, right? It's my first time seeing a brick of cocaine. First time doing something like that. I can't believe how small that thing is, man. But that first time, it's getting me 14 damn years, man.
And because it's
So
cross state lines, it's federal.
yes, cross state lines and all that good stuff. And so that's my little background, and like my little damper on my life because I did a lot of things wrong. Like I was making so much money. It was a time period I was making 100,000 profit per week. So I was sometimes I tell myself that when people talk about people that are too smart for their own good,
Hmm.
I kind of put myself in that category. And it's very it's possible. It's easy to get lost in the sauce. Like I never saved money ever because
Wow.
I just believe that I just make more. It's so many things that you're supposed to do that I just ignored. I remember one of my teachers told me like, man, you're so good at this or that, but you don't play by the damn rules.
Sound like my
Or
son.
yeah, like I will score a 95 on the test, but I won't do the homework.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For some reason, I feel like an exception to certain rules or whatever it is. I don't know,
Hmm.
but now I'm 40 now. This isn't happening to me at 20. It's not happening to me at 30. It's happening to me at 40. And so, and I mentioned all of this because when we started the conversation, you talk about the kids who it happened to at 14 or 15, and don't worry about it. There's still hope, or how to deal with it, so because there's still hope. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking, shoot, well, what do you have for me? Because I'm 40.
You know what? It's the same thing, though. It's the
What do you
same
have for me?
thing. It's so the
Yeah,
whole reason why we end up in these type of situations is because we didn't learn the lesson. You know how they say you keep taking the same test
yeah,
until you pass it. And so
yes,
unfortunately, things get progressively worse or things have to get progressively more shocking to catch our attention. And so because those
yeah,
messages kept coming and you didn't quite get it, it seems like something big had to happen to get your attention. But what I'm
yeah,
hearing in your conversation right now is that you've been very reflective and you see that it didn't have to go this way. But, choices you made going against your better judgment, because you said you was raised by people that had very good sense. Your mom knew what was going on and she raised you right.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you made choices that went against that. And so in this
yeah,
time, we're all suffering the consequences of our choices. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. I'm like, there are positive consequences or there are negative consequences depending on what you do. And
yeah.
so choose wisely.
Whatever you deposit When you go to withdraw, that's what's gonna be there.
Man, yeah, yeah. Now, this young lady, you did not know her before this incident?
No,
See, that's
no,
the type of shit I be warning my son about. You got to watch these people you don't know. Be like, who sent you? Because this don't even sound right.
man, man, yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like and which is why it's like the way life works and the way everything works. We tend to listen to the people who are successful. We tend to listen to the people who have something to kind of show. We don't tend to listen to the person that's down, right?
Right.
Or 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 kind of like fell off. But I think that my future, because to be, one of the things, I don't have much to show out of life for all the things that I've done. Like, people now will meet me and be like, damn, big bro, I'm trying to be like you. Or, I've done some things that inspired a lot of people, things that people seen and be like, damn, I didn't even know we could actually do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that was actually possible. And that's one of the things that I made a mark on. Like, I didn't, man, and this is ignorant and this is embarrassing, but there was a time period, like, I had a house that was 45,000 a month for rent.
Wow.
That's the crazy ass life I was living. You know what I'm
You
saying?
did it though.
And I did it, and I can rationalize on why it made sense and how it made money, because it kind of did. I don't
Mm-hmm.
normally do things. I am impulsive. I am high risk, high reward, but things that I do tend to make sense. What happens is, if you make a plan, right? In that plan, if you make a plan, as you go along, new things happen and new things come, and they're like anomalies, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I used to be really good at tunnel vision, and I kind of still am good at it. Like, I could be doing something right now, and a bunch of things is happening around me, and I'm able to block it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think one of my problems too was that I move 100 miles per hour, and when you move 100 miles per hour, you can't see everything. You can't take everything in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but when you make these plans, you somehow you have to account for the unexpected, or you have to adjust your plans maybe daily. And the thing about planning is, people will panic about not having a charger for their phone, but they won't panic about not having a plan for their life.
Isn't that amazing? You are absolutely right. You are absolutely
And I
right.
and and, I'm kind of, and I find myself in that, you know,
Well, you
and
said
I think,
something earlier that I thought was interesting because something to be said for having the mindset of, I believe that I'm always going to be able to make more. You
man,
believe in abundance and so it keeps coming to you. But there's also
yeah,
something to be said for implementing wisdom and thinking about, okay, I need to put something aside
there's,
because I've seen that this is a possibility and just in case. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
This is my federal lawyer calling me.
Oh, you got to take
And
that one.
got to take
You
that
need
one.
to you
Today's a
need to take
deadline.
that one. Yeah.
That's 1 second. 1 second.
Okay.
Tell you, I've been praying for a little miracle, for a little more time, and man, maybe we just got it.
I'm crossing my fingers. That would be
Man,
beautiful.
that would be a beaut. Uh,
Okay, so you kind of just started in and got straight to the point with your story, but I would love to hear a little bit about your history. Like, who are you? Where did you grow up? Where were you born? That type of thing.
was born in Jamaica. I'd say I'd say probably born in Jamaica, middle upper class black.
Okay.
Um, then my mom got robbed. Her face got burnt off with acid,
I
and
remember
then
that part.
that begins like poverty kind of thing. Moved to New York.
New York.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and New York made a big impact on my life. I've lived in California longer, but New York has a bigger impact. I remember my first week in New York, man. My first week in New York, I go to the laundromat. I got my dad's chain. I got my dad's phone, and five guys bumped into me. Well, one guy, there's a group of five. One guy bumps into me. Boom, he bumps into me. The biggest guy in the group comes and he's like, "Yo, man, why you bumped into my brothers?" I'm like, "I bumped into him. He bumped into me." And then pushed me up against the wall, put your knife in my stomach.
Oh Lord, they jumped you for that?
Like
Yeah.
they didn't jump me, but it's I guess in California they call things like this a play. So basically he's gonna bump into me and say I did something to his brother. Now I gotta pay. So
Mm,
give me your chain and give me your phone. But I
pretty
am
much
so
check.
scared of my dad. Like what? We get beat. I remember I left my bicycle outside. I'm in the shower. I'm getting beat in the shower. That's the kind of dad I got. Like,
So you were more scared of your dad than you was of them fools, huh?
hell yeah, he wasn't getting done.
That's
But
hilarious.
that's New York, man. And in New York, every corner, somebody's hustling, always moving, always. There's that drive, that fire. And I kind of took a lot of that with me. Then to California, lived in Fullerton, Orange County. Fullerton, is nothing like LA,
At all.
right?
It's the
It's
suburbs, yeah.
in the suburbs. There's one unique thing about Fullerton, though, in Santa Ana, etc. It's that like a city like Buena Park, I think, is one of the most highest skinhead Nazi density in
I did not
America,
know
I
that.
think.
I used to live in Buena Park. I didn't know that.
Yeah, very racist. And
I knew they were racist, but I didn't know that other stat. That's
and,
interesting.
and Santa Ana was pretty bad. So we ended up having a lot of there wasn't a lot of gang stuff. Wasn't a lot of Bloods and Crips stuff, but it was a lot of Black and Mexican stuff.
Hmm.
A lot of it. A lot of it. But then yeah, so I was in the speech and debate team at Fullerton High School. Had an academic scholarship to Cal State Fullerton, and probably one of the best things that happened to me as far as how to talk, how to look at arguments, claims, and warrants, how to make sense, etc.
So did you end up going to Cal State Fullerton or you just got into promotions and
I
that was it?
did. I went to Cal State Fullerton. I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I got caught. And maybe this is one thing that I can say that might be useful to someone in the future. Some people say that the difference between the African and the African American is that the African American believes in fairness. The African doesn't. And I
Hmm.
think some part of, winning independence or having a flag or having an identity gives some kind of boost to the mental, right? And the African American that's more assimilated. What do I mean by that? The African is raised that it's a white man's world. I was told that I had to work twice as hard as the white man to get anything or to get anywhere,
Yeah, a lot of
right?
people say that.
And I think that was important for me. And while I remembered it and while I kept to it, I got to work twice as hard as the white man to get, anywhere or get the same thing. And you will see sometimes we might apply for a job 3 times, don't get it, and be like, man, fuck this shit. This is, racist. They're this, they're that. I can't get a shot, right? The African won't really do that. He's just gonna keep going because
Right.
there's no choice. There's no welfare in Jamaica. Not that Jamaica is a part of Africa, but the African or the African, those countries, right? There's no welfare out there. There's no EBT. There is no housing program. Ain't none of that.
So
None
you
of
have
it.
no choice but to
Have
hustle and
no
make it
choice
happen.
to make something happen, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't believe in no fairness. That ain't right. That's not okay. That. Oh, nobody believes in that. Nobody wants to hear it. It's like there's like these no excuses uh kind of thing. But when I went to college, I ended up being affected like,
Are you driving? You can't drive and look down. What you doing?
oh, I'm trying to see this address of where I'm supposed to be going next.
Okay. Well,
But
make sure you're not driving and doing that. You're scaring me.
just um what's it called? So when I went to college and speech and debates this is what speech and debate is like.
Mm-hmm.
The United States federal government should overturn the law that allows abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would say a typical speech and debate argument might be a spending. So you have affirmative, negative. It might be a spending argument. If you overpeel the law on abortion, then George Bush is going to win the election. If George Bush wins the election, then he's going to go to war with Iraq. If he goes to war with Iraq, it's going to end in World War III and nuclear war, so you should lose. We shouldn't pass your plan. Or it might be like, if you do this plan, the economy's already bad. It's going to make the economy worse. And if the economy goes worse, then it's going to lead to resource war. Everything ends up in war, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you should lose. So then when I got into debate, there was this new kind of debate, and it's called critical debate. And so I was on to something called critical race theory.
Okay.
And critical race theory was just like, it's always going to be war. It's always going to be bullshit unless and until we solve racism, right? Racism is the root cause of all problems. Then the feminists would come and say, you're wrong. It's all about masculinity. As long as there's masculinity and men are in control, and you have, first wave, second wave, third wave feminism,
Mm-hmm.
as long as men are in control, it's always going to be war and destruction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can a lot of masculinity you can see in everything. Like, you might just go take a test, an exam, and be like, "Yo, I killed it." Yo, the words that we use in just everyday language can be so masculine sometimes, right? And so they would make that point. Then the capitalists will be like, "You're all stupid. It's about race. It's about class. The rich versus the poor." You know what I mean? Like, it just so happens that the poor tend to be of color, and you had all of this stuff. And mind you, Jamaica is a very homophobic place,
Mm-hmm.
very homophobic. So I have that in me too, and I intellectually got rid of homophobia because of these critical debates. Because if you believe that, what it came down to in the end was dichotomies: rich versus poor, black versus white, um, man
We
versus
live in a world of duality, period.
right. So then we started this thing. I think it's Cornel West, Bell Hooks, Michael Eric Dyson, those type of people.
Mm-hmm.
They had this thing called intersectionality, because the experience for a big black man is different than the experience for well, you can't even just stop at a big black man, right? A big black man that didn't graduate high school, that, and heterosexual is different than the experience for a homosexual, light-skinned, rich black man that went to Harvard and like, all of this stuff
Right.
matters,
Right.
right? All of it matters. All of it is different. None of it the same. 5 black people can go inside a store They're
And
gonna look
have
at two of
completely
them and
different
probably not watch
experiences.
the other three of them because of all of these things. So
Hmm.
we got into that stuff. But as far as the homosexuality stuff, it was just like you can't be against racism and hate gay people because it's the same us versus them kind of thing.
It's the same
Right.
mentality at the end of the
It's the
day. Yeah.
same, yeah, it's the same exact thing, like
Mhm.
us versus them. And that's how I was intellectually able to get rid of it first, and then I was able to hang out and smile and be like, "Oh, you guys are not so bad." You
It's
know what I'm saying?
interesting because that's something that I've been
And
studying lately about how pretty much the way that we perceive the world and the way that we interact in the world first starts in our mind and our
yeah,
perceptions of things. And so
yeah,
once we're able to change our mind, then we can change our behavior.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And what I was getting at was that when I got into college, I had the Black Panther kind of plague. I had
Oh,
the
so you had a different type of mentality. You had to kind of,
yeah,
uh,
because I got big on race out of nowhere. Out of
mm.
nowhere. Well, I guess what it is, I'm living in Orange County. I'm walking past a couple. Every time I walk past her, she grabs her purse tighter. He holds her closer. I'm starting to deal with this stuff now.
So you
I'm
allowed it to
starting
trigger
to,
you a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel, yeah. So then I got the idea in my head that if and then I'm in speech and debate, right? Everybody's white. I'm just the only black guy there. They can afford speech and debate camps. I can't. My mom is blind. Somebody got to pick me up to take me to a debate tournament. Like I'm just, kind of starting to, you know what I mean? I'm starting to feel race. I'm starting to feel poverty. I'm starting to feel things.
It's interesting how we buy into those notions. Those
Yeah, and
notions
that
didn't make
motherfucker
you
got
any
me,
less
man. It got
qualified
me,
than
man.
anyone else, but because
Yeah,
of
it got me.
programming and societal norms and all those kind of things, we, take it in. That's what education does, unfortunately, though. It
Yeah,
indoctrinates.
and man, it got me in the sense of like, man, if I go get a job, if I go for a job, and the white guy or the white woman go for a job, they're gonna give it to her before me. And I just started, all them bad thoughts, man.
Lost hope. Mm.
Yeah, it messed me up because I dropped out of college. And then, like, I'm the only one out of my group of friends that's like going to college. And I was like a leader, you know what I mean? And,
Hmm.
I got these friends and this stuff and this stuff. And it's like, I got to hold them down somehow. So I kind of dropped out to be with them. Big mistake.
When
Because
keeping it real goes wrong, you said
like,
that earlier.
man, all the time. Because when I thought that I was like, all right, we're going to do this, or I'm going to give you this, or I'm going to hook you up with this and put you on with this, like, I wasn't really doing nothing. The best thing that I could have done was go graduate, be a millionaire, go buy a business, and then give somebody a job. That would have been like a real difference. The things that I was doing wasn't cool. Like, yeah, bro, I need $1,000 and I can do this and I can do that, but it's all bad stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I dropped out of college, and I think that's how I dropped out because
Okay.
yeah, I just didn't think that I was going to get a fair shot at anything. I didn't think that I would be able to be like everybody else, and then the promoting thing and all this other stuff. I'm watching people that were graduating from college and trying to borrow money from me. Uh, I just didn't. Yeah, it was got lost in the sauce.
That's
Oops,
interesting. You
sorry.
should say that because I have a master's, but people keep asking me when I'm going to go back to do my doctorate. And I'm like, there are people who have doctorates that, are sitting around twiddling their thumbs. I think doing the work is a little more important than
Yeah,
the paper, but I know in certain
yeah.
spaces they want you to have it. So,
What's interesting, man. Now that I'm looking at all of this time, I don't know what's possible and what's not possible. Um, but academia, right? Academia Also in debate, we used to call it the ivory tower.
Mm-hmm.
These highly educated people, we call them ivory tower,
Mm-hmm.
right? Look down from your ivory tower, trying to understand what's happening on the ground is not possible. You got to be in the street, boom, 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 boom. Like I consider myself, in some ways, an organic intellectual. I acquired a lot of knowledge organically by firsthand, by whatever, and then you have these academia people. And recently, I kind of like been missing it. Or, we always talk about using the master's tool to break down a master's house, you know, and I kind of like, all this stuff that's being spewed out, all this knowledge that's being spewed out, to be in the rooms where all of these things come from. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And have a say, because a lot of it is still off, you know. Um,
Well, that's
a
kind
lot
of
of
what
it's
I
still off.
realized. I realized that nothing will change if we're not in the spaces where the decisions are made. And so at the
Got
end
to,
of the
right?
day, we got to get in those rooms.
Got to get in that room. Got to get in that ivory tower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Got to get
Yeah.
wherever, because so much goes uncontested.
Hmm.
Like I don't think our kids will hear about Orientalism. They won't hear about like Edward Said. They won't hear about Cornel West or bell hooks,
How
or
will they
you know
unless we teach them? It's
unless
up
we
to
teach
us,
them right,
right?
or we we kind of press that issue. You know, because but man, like I was just thinking the other day, like, man, like, will we ever get another Martin Luther? Will we ever get another Malcolm X? Will we ever get another, Tupac or something? Nipsey Hussle was close to that, but when we gonna get one of these people back?
You know what? I think that they are out there. They just don't necessarily get the media coverage that, the chosen few get. The media every so now and then they find somebody that they pump up and make our next whoever. But there are lots of people who are
Yeah,
in their communities doing the work. We just may not hear about them unless we are in those locations.
man, I think them people shine so bright you can't even miss them.
Well, I mean, we have the 19 keys, we have the Rizza Islams. We have the people that are out here being activists. I have a friend, his name is Josiah Bruni. He has a company called Music Changing Lives, and he's doing a lot of things in the San Bernardino area, So there are people out there doing the work. Don't ever think that they're not. But the thing is like I said, unless you're in those locations, you might not hear their names because they're not going to be on ABC, CNN, or whatever,
Yeah,
station
if
is
you
the
can,
one
if you
that's
can
going to blow
send me
them
some of
up.
those links, I want to see it, man.
I definitely will. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I just feel like what we're doing right now is what needs to be done. Because what happened was there was a generation of us who didn't have the elders to show us the way. We kind of had to figure it out, right?
yeah.
Taken away, they, not here for whatever reason, right? But
Yeah, I
now
mean,
that
when we
we're
think
in our
about it, the Civil
40s,
Rights Act was only 1964.
I'm just saying, a
Uh,
generation ago, a generation
yeah,
ago.
and that didn't really start, a while after. So yeah, we damaged,
And this
man.
is the thing. Our scholars, the ones who actually went into those ivory towers, they got some information and came back out and said, hey, the story that they've been telling us, it ain't what we think it is. And
Right.
so now that we know the game, we have to do what we got to do to get back control of our land. When our big mamas was here, they
Yeah.
wasn't having this shit.
I
People
was
wasn't out in
having
the
I
street
was
acting
having
the
a
way they are. You know what I'm
conversation.
saying? So we just got to
I,
get control of
I
our
was having
communities
this
again.
conversation with one of my good friends, maybe 5 or 6 days ago. Yeah. And
Hmm.
what I was just like, man, the problem is we can no longer identify the we.
Hmm.
Like when we say we have to do this, it's so many divisions and so much, because man, and just talking about what we were talking about, uh the we, right?
Hmm.
You got you got different groups of Christians that can't agree. You got different groups of black Muslims that can't agree. You got some blacks that call themselves Jews. Some blacks, we're so fractured.
That was the whole plan, though, divide and conquer. They told us what the
Yeah,
plan was, and it worked. So at this stage, though, we just got to figure out who's like-minded. And if you want to be
right.
separated, you stay over there. But if we can be like-minded and work together and do what we say we gonna do, and
There was a
have those
time, right?
values and morals that will help us to get through, then those are the people that we click with.
Yeah, I think I think sometime last year, like I was on to something, and I can't really find out everything about it that I was on, but it involved like a post racial situation.
Hmm.
It involved like finding common denominators and go from there. And it would start with something like the most common denominator that we have, or the most we can get, is I am a human being. You are a human being. So that's the lowest common denominator between all of us, right? And then using that as a starting point to figure certain things out.
Well,
Because I think when Martin Luther King would say something like, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And we have to find out what justice looks like, what injustice looks like. And it doesn't matter too much the color of the skin. Like I think that the future fights that are successful aren't race based or class based or etc. I think they will be human based.
I agree with that.
And I
And
don't know how to kind of break that down much more yet.
well, this is the thing though. There are people who believe in helping the human, race and mankind and all of that. And then there are people who were raised to be selfish. And the problem is
Yeah.
that the people who are caring and giving keep trying to work with the people who are selfish. And the people who are selfish keep sabotaging everything because they're selfish. So at the end of the day, we have to use our gift of discernment and we have to be able to say, you know what? I recognize that every time I try to build with you, shit goes wrong. I can't build with you no more. And we have to be willing to cut those ties in order to
Man,
make progress. And that's our
I
issue.
wasn't good
We
at
want to
that.
bring everybody along, but everybody
Yeah,
don't want to come.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's so true. You got
mhm.
you rap it on stage. You bring the whole hood with you.
Man,
You know,
and then you end up,
what's
it's
meant
all
for that.
gone. Be like, damn, I tried to help everybody.
Right.
Yeah, so it's interesting though, but you know what? I really thank you for sharing your story. I do believe that somebody is going to hear what you say and think twice about how they're moving right now because, you know,
It's too easy. Life is there's traps. There's traps in abundance. There's traps everywhere, and they're all easy to fall for. That's why they're traps. And you gotta be so locked into what it is you're trying to do. Like man, anybody that can find their purpose, it is a blessing. It
hmm,
sucks to have a purposeless life.
hmm,
I think when they say the devil's mind is an idle playground, when you ain't got that purpose and you just go with the flow and you just it's whatever, like whatever can happen. You know what I'm saying? But when you got a goal and a dream and a plan, just stay on that plan and don't let nobody get you off that plan. If you got $5,000 in your pocket and you saving it and you're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and somebody come and say, "Yo, let me borrow 2,000," like you ain't waked up ready to give nobody 2,000. But you
right.
know what I mean, it's just like it's so easy to get knocked off track, man.
Hmm.
And now looking back, I wish I would have stayed in college No matter what they was shooting at me, no matter what I was dealing with, I know where I would have ended up at. I would have ended up in the top 5, top 10%. Like, I've made millions of dollars. Um, not like at once. So even now, I have a business that generates $3,000 or more per day. It's 365 days in a year. That's $1 million company, and it sucks, right? And so it's like it's I don't know, man. I can just say like you just gotta really just stay locked in, and the people around you are way more important than you think. I remember complaining the other day to the mother of my child, and I'm like, man, this person and that person and that person and that person, and she just said, "Dale, look who you hang around."
Hmm.
That shit fucked me up. Like because the
Real
people
talk.
around me, and I don't know what happened to me, but because I remember my dad telling me about who I hang around with. But I have like this deep Christian thing where Jesus hang around with anybody. Jesus don't see somebody and not want to help them. Jesus want to help everybody, and Jesus want to do this, and Jesus would do that. And it's like, damn, it took me a while to realize that I'm not Jesus.
Well, this is the thing, no, because Jesus said we can do what he did. So, no, we're not him, but we do have that same power. But this is the thing, no, just like I just got through saying a second ago, people have to want to do differently. They have to want
Yeah,
better. We be trying to help
yeah,
people that
yeah.
don't want to be
Oh,
helped.
you know what? The qualifying process, the vetting process of who to do what for, gotta be stronger.
Yeah.
The vetting process, because my company right now is called Everybody Eats. And it's a way to think, a way to live, a way to act, a way to do business, where we can sit down at the table and everyone at the table walks away with a bite to eat, right?
Hmm.
Because for some people think that for me to win, you got to lose.
Right. They think it's a
You know
zero
what I'm
sum
saying?
game.
Like
Nah, there's enough
it's
for
zero sum
everybody.
game, or
There's
I
abundance.
got to get over, or whatever. Like the other day, the people were asking me, like, Dale, when you're gone, how do we know what the right price is? Because you seem to be magical at setting the prices. And my thing is, the first rule to this everybody eats thing, and it's something that I want to work out, like a 10 Commandments or whatever. Like I said, I have lived this life where it's like keeping it real go wrong. What's a real man, a real or what's a real nigga? Like what does it look like? Or
Right. What does that
whatever.
mean?
And I'm really trying to map it out. But I think it starts off with treating people like you want to be treated.
That's a
You
great
know what I
place to
mean?
start. Yeah.
Like if you know what this product is and you know how much it costs, and someone was selling it to you, how much would you be willing to pay them?
You
Like,
think it's
okay,
fair,
you know
right?
what I'm saying? Like I think regular business says you should profit between 20 and 50%. Most people gonna try to get something for $100 and try to make $200. And I try to tell people like if I took $10,000 and I was going to do a concert and I want to make $25,000, the things that I'm going to do or the assumptions that I'm going to make will lead me to failure,
Hmm.
right? Uh, 85% or higher chance of
Hmm.
failing if you try to take 10,000 to make 25. In a concert setting, you might go get a $5,000 artist, you get a $3,000 venue, you spend money on your DJs, your security and stuff. So now you got $10,000 invested. So a $5,000 artist, you might get somebody like, I don't know, maybe RJ will take 5 grand right now, maybe Compton AV or something like that. Okay, boom. Those tickets are $10 to $20 tickets.
That ain't gonna make the money you
$10
think,
is
right?
safer. It ain't gonna make the money, but that's what it's worth. But now
Right.
you trying to get all of this money, so you be like, okay, the spot hold 500 people, so I'm gonna charge them like $40. Error,
Hmm.
error. I don't see the man with Rick Ross when Rick Ross was at his peak, and it's 50 people in there. He's selling for $100. Like it's an error. Now, if you got 10,000 and you're trying to make 12, 13, maybe 14, your chances of success are like 90%.
Because
You
that
know
margin is
what I
closer.
mean?
I got you.
And that's kind of one thing I kind of learned in life. that might help somebody. I think that would be helpful for sure. And then yeah, man. Yeah, good talking to you. I would check out the show. You
Yes,
know.
sir. I really appreciate it. Like I said, you kind of already did it though, but I was telling you that my math students always ask, when am I going to use math in real life? You've been talking numbers the whole time though. So
Right. Yeah. Oh man, numbers is, you got like a lot of people who look at life like it's just math. I think my first thing getting into math was when first thing with math is when I learned about the 80/20 rule. You heard that one?
mm,
You know that one already?
that's the savings rule,
That
right?
one is real. No, the 80/20 rule. The 80/20 rule is supposed to be a universal rule in every part of your life, kind of, but it's really for business. So the 80/20 rule, let's say you own a nightclub again, you go to a nightclub. 80% of the money you make at the nightclub comes from 20% of the people you deal with.
Oh, okay.
It's 80/20 everything. Or it will say, so for instance, you got people that come to the nightclub and they buy bottles. You
Hmm.
got people that drink in the parking lot, and you got people that buy one or two drinks. 80% of the money you make comes from 20% of whatever is going on. And so you focus more on the 20% and try to get rid of like the 80%. The 80/20 rule will say that all the friends you have, 20% are really good friends. The other 80% you can do without.
So pretty much 20% is going to be the bang for your buck over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
are the ones that like when you get locked up, they're gonna write you. You're something like that. But it's not just business and whatever, it's just like your entire life. Like if you took everything you did today or you're going to do today, it will say some of those things you could have done without or done in a different way. It could be like, I'm about to go grocery shopping for 2 hours. The 80/20 rule might say go grocery shopping on Amazon.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a way to refine your life and narrow things down to maximize whatever else. But a lot of life, man, is numbers. I guess the world is panicking. My phone hasn't stopped since I've been on here.
You know what? It's all good. I know you're a busy man. I do appreciate you taking the time. And
Yeah,
I want to stay in contact. I'm definitely going to share those resources with the organizations that the guys that I'm telling you about that I work
yeah,
with.
man. I need it. I need it. I
Yeah.
need it.
My guy Josiah, I'll share his stuff with you. But yeah, man, thank you again. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you.
Brooklyn.
Yes, sir.
I lived in Brooklyn, Utica Avenue, and I
Well,
went to
I will
Boys and
definitely
Girls High
be in
School in
touch though.
Brooklyn.
What's up?
Yeah. I lived in Brooklyn, Utica Avenue, and I went to
Oh,
Boys and Girls High School in Brooklyn.
that's what's up.
The
I
good
visited
times.
Brooklyn for the
Yeah.
Labor Day parade.
Nice. Man, what a place. What a time.
All right, my
All
friend.
right.
Well, I wish you well and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Bye.